Assalamu alaikum ji. I am Afia Malik. I am a senior research economist at the Pakistan Institute of Development Economics. Today, I welcome you all in the Future of Energy webinar series. We'll start with a recitation from Holy Quran.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد
Jazakallah. Today, we will be talking about energy conservation. Before we begin, let me introduce you to our panel. Today, we have with us a very eminent panel with vast experience on the topic. Our first speaker is Mr. Firoz Beg. He's electrical engineer and master's in industrial management. Has experience in energy management, clean development mechanism, and voluntary carbon standards, and currently working as director industry at NECA. Our second panelist is Mr. Asad Mahmood, mechanical engineer with more than 18 years of experience in the renewable energy and energy efficiency sector. He remained part of various public, private, and development partner initiatives and led different energy and climate change related interventions. Has conducted numerous trainings on energy efficiency, mitigation, greenhouse gas reporting, climate change adaptation plans, and clean technologies across Pakistan and abroad. He's a certified productivity specialist and certified trainer on green productivity and energy efficiency from ABO, Tokyo, Japan. He's a member of different professional bodies and presently working as consultant advisor for different activities pertaining to the Green Climate Fund, Net Zero, Science-Based Target Initiatives, power sector improvement, carbon markets, and localized climate change adaptation action plans. Our third speaker is Mr. Amir Zia. He's advisor to CEO K Electric. He has previously served K Electric as Chief Distribution Officer, Deputy Chief Operating Officer Distribution, and Chief of Distribution Operations, playing a critical role in K Electric's corporate turnaround. Prior to K Electric, Amir worked with USAID Power Distribution Program as project lead, held leadership positions with public sector entities including NAPRA, ISCO, and served as an independent consultant to the World Bank. With a master's in electrical engineering from USA and an MBA in project management, Amir has over 30 years of experience in management of power sector utilities. Our fourth panelist is Dr. Naveed Arshad. He is Associate Professor of Computer Science and Director of the National Center in the Big Data and Cloud Computing at LUMS. He is also the founder of Energy Informatics Group and co-director of LUMS Energy Institute. With research interests in energy and climate informatics, electrical vehicles, policy, and entrepreneurship, he has published over 70 research articles in top international journals and conferences. He has also authored Precon, the most comprehensive open residential energy data collection in the world. He has also contributed significantly to the development of national electric vehicle policy and is leading an effort to bring low-cost EVs in the country. He is the co-founder of multiple startups in big data, energy analytics, and electric vehicle domains. Dr. Arshad has also authored many reports and white papers for advocacy and evidence-based policy recommendations. We all know about the challenges in Pakistan's energy sector is facing. Circular debt is rising, cumulative losses have crossed rupees 5 trillion. Over the years, Pakistan electricity demand has risen by 5%, but still 25% of the population is without access to electricity. Shortages and unreliability leave over 90 million with undermet energy demand. Our decision makers always look towards new energy supplies to meet the growing demand and address the under and unmet energy needs. Pakistan, despite being purely served by electricity, the energy savings potential from conservation and efficiency measures is substantial. It is estimated around 17% of total electricity use, which in other words could enable us to reduce energy imports significantly. Improving energy efficiency is a cost-effective way to address the energy challenges faced by the country. It can minimize environmental concerns, ease production cost, and promote economic growth. Many developed nations have decoupled economic growth from energy consumption, demonstrating that higher income levels don't necessarily translate into more energy usage. But unfortunately, in Pakistan, the idea of energy conservation and demand management has never remained a priority in our strategies. Whenever there is a shortage, the focus has been on adding more capacity, and the result is capacity payments, which used to be rupees 2 per unit in the electricity tariff around 7 to 8 years ago, has now become rupees 17 per unit. And not only that, a lot of energy is wasted while supplying electricity in the country. In general, electricity infrastructure is old and is poorly managed, and little to no investments are done to make it according to modern standards. And over the years, a weak link between price and demand and substantial cross subsidization across sectors has skewed consumption towards less productive domestic consumers. We are very intense country, as indicated by the 28 out of 100 scores it received in the World Bank regulatory indicators for sustainable energy ranking of the last year. Our regulators, our regulations, policies, and financing mechanisms are noticeably weaker than other countries. Energy efficiency is a crucial aspect of the SDGs as it complements efforts towards sustainable access to energy. After several consultation rounds, NICA has come up with a national energy efficiency and conservation policy. Let me add here, this is the second such policy. The first ever energy conservation policy was designed by Enercon in 2006. But unfortunately, Enercon failed to gain support from various groups, and ultimately it failed in the policy implementation. This time, NICA must expedite the implementation of minimum energy performance standards for appliances like motors, lighting, air conditioners, refrigerators, and water and space heaters. Additionally, there is a need to amend development authorities' bylaws to coordination with relevant departments, mandating the incorporation of building energy efficiency codes in new construction and retrofitting in existing buildings. A mix of passive and active measures are required. Energy efficiency has become an important policy instrument across the globe. So, in today's webinar, we will try to figure out what factors are hindering the decoupling of energy and growth in Pakistan, and what are the most effective ways to ensure this. With these words, let me now turn to the panel. I'll start with Firoz Beg Saab. Beg Saab, please briefly tell us about the salient features of the NICA policy and the implementation strategies at NICA, what they are planning about its implementation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Afia. Yes, you have explained that about National Energy Efficiency and Conservation Policy 2023, that it was approved by the Federal Cabinet this year, and NICA was asked to make an action plan associated with the policy. So within a very short time, because the approval was conditioned with the submission of the action plan, NICA devised an action plan which contained 29 priority action areas in 5 sectors of the economy. One sector is industry, second is power, third is buildings, fourth is transport, and fifth is agriculture. NICA is mandated to initiate, coordinate, and catalyze energy efficiency and conservation in these 5 sectors of the economy. So 29 action areas are devised, and now we are hopeful that since this action plan is recently approved by the Federal Cabinet in August 2023, and with the timeline, we are going to implement and secure resources for its implementation in the timeline. Over to you, Mr.
Okay, thank you so much. Now let me turn to Mr. Asad Mahmood sir. Power sector is facing so many challenges. What role energy conservation and efficiency measures can play in the backdrop of current energy crisis? Over to you, Asad sir. Asad Saab is offline. Now let me turn to Amir Zia Saab. Since you are representing a utility, distribution utilities play a critical role in the energy conservation domain. My question to you is, what is the potential role of a distribution company in general in promoting energy conservation culture in areas under its jurisdiction? And what role specifically K Electric is playing in this regard? Over to you, Amir Zia.
Thank you very much. I think K-Electric plays a very significant role in terms of how you can improve the conservation of energy within the ambit of its utility service. बहुत जो क्लियर एग्जांपल्स हैं उसके वो ये हैं कि वी डू एनर्जी ऑडिट्स ऑफ द इंडस्ट्रीज we do a lot of CSR activities. We do a lot of informing the public at large. How can they optimize their utility? How they can improve the efficiency through different measures, even to the point of going into explaining to the general public at large, the consumers, that what is the benefit of actually consuming electricity through an energy efficient device. And trust me that there is a huge disparity between the usage of electricity from a energy efficient device versus a device that actually is non-efficient. Almost 80-20 का उसके अंदर difference आ जाता है. So अगर आप इन चीज़ों को इस्तेमाल करें through these measures. दूसरा एक और जो बहुत बड़ा एक इशू है वो ये है कि वी आर वेरी फाउंड ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग कि डिमांड साइड मैनेजमेंट एनर्जी कंजर्वेशन के दरमियान में फ़र्क भी समझना बहुत ज़रूरी है. डिमांड साइड मैनेजमेंट इज़ मोर काइंड ऑफ टैरिफ डायरेक्टेड अप्रोच. कंजर्वेशन के अंदर जो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ है वो ये समझने वाली है कि दिस इज़ मोर इन टर्म्स ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग द फिलॉसफी ऑफ हाउ कैन आई इम्प्रूव द overall pattern of my consumption that can actually reduce in lowering the bill, both in terms of consumption and both in terms of amount. बहुत इसकी जो अवेयरनेस है उसमें बहुत सख्त ज़रूरत है कि इलेक्ट्रिक अपना बहुत ज़्यादा रोल प्ले करती है, ख़ासतौर पे जो इंडस्ट्रीज़ हैं उसके साथ तो हमारी बहुत हैंड ग्लव किस्म की सिचुएशन होती है. जनरल पब्लिक को भी हम एक्सप्लेन कर रहे होते हैं कि जी कहाँ कहाँ पे इनकी अपनी एफिशिएंसीज जो उनसी हैं वो इम्प्रूव की जा सकती हैं. थैंक यू जी.
Thank you, Amir Saab. Let me turn to Dr. Naveed Arshad. As Beek Saab has shared, talked about NICA policy, and Zia Saab tell us about the role of utilities and K-Electric. How can we ensure effective execution of energy conservation measures to achieve the desired outcomes, and what are the challenges in your opinion? Dr. Naveed Arshad.
Thank you very much for the invite. I think in my I think last few years when I've been working in the energy efficiency domain, I work basically in the area of energy informatics, which is using data to bring more insights about the energy sector, which includes planning and conservation, of course, and optimization. So what I have seen is that, of course, you can divide energy efficiency conservation at many levels. If you just look at let's say the housing sector, there is, of course, the materials and the way we insulate our buildings. And of course, there are other challenges like double glazed windows and others. All those are something that is there. That is something that's, if it's already built into a building, we can fix it through retrofitting. But in whether you have to do it in a new building or old building, certainly it takes time and also resources, financial resources mostly. The second thing is that once a building is made, any building I'm talking about, whether it's a house or school or an office or a commercial building or an industrial building, there are many ways of making sure that the building is run efficiently and we are able to conserve energy in it. The biggest challenge that I see in this quest of bringing efficiency and conservation to a building is that there are no business models that are established, or at least that are established in our country, or they are proven to be working in our country. And let me maybe give you a parallel with the solar energy. So if I am a consumer, I know that my bill is certain and my bill is increasing every day. What I'll do is that I'll go, if I have the resources, I'll go and I'll buy a solar panel or a bunch of it, ask an installer to install it, and ultimately I'll be producing energy in the daytime with my solar system. A clear, you can say buyback, you can say clear ROI is available here. We are not bound to something. I mean, these numbers are already, you can say everybody knows about them, and I'll be able to get my ROI in 3, 4, 5 years, whatever is available. In case if I do the same thing in an energy conservation, let's say there is a building and I would like to go and fix that building in terms of conservation or bring energy efficiency through its retrofitting or energy devices. We do not have a model where the decision makers can say with certainty that if I spend X amount of money, I'm going to get the X amount back in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years' time. There are very few companies that are investing in it, and the reason is that not only that they do not have a proof of that this investment is going to come back. The second thing is that they also do not have many of the financial resources that are available for solar. So, for example, a few years ago, the government of Pakistan had this green banking guidelines under which the solar panels were available at 2%, banks were giving at 4%. So it was a very good, you can say, opportunity for companies to install solar in their vicinity. But the same kind of models are not available for any kind of energy conservation or efficiency initiatives. And that is the reason it is very difficult for the decision makers in the government or in the private sector to actually invest in this area. The second challenge is that because the instrumentation in a building or in a sector is difficult or it's not available, it is not really known that what are the places where actually energy conservation will make sense, or energy efficient devices will make sense, or they will bring us better energy efficiency. That's only possible if we instrument the building. The only instrumentation that we have right now in most buildings is a meter that provides us about a bill after a month. And if you want to do something about it, I can do it only in the next month, and it does not provide me a reflection of what actually went wrong. Why did my bill shot up so high? So for that, the first, of course, level is kind of smart metering, where people are known, at least know their bills in real time. The system that we have in you can say the NTDC system or the DISCOs, that's gives information at about half an hour interval. That's one level of information. Another level is that we go and instrument the building and see that which floors and which rooms, which appliances, which devices, whether motors or whatever, what kind of energy they are taking. And that number will exactly tell us that, okay, where the most energy is being wasted and where there are opportunities available for conservation. I'll give you just one example, and then probably we'll move on to other questions. With a former student of mine, we co-founded a company that is providing just one, you can say, solution to customers of how they can instrument their buildings or their, you can say, locations, and how can energy data can provide them with an opportunity to save the energy. Now, it was not a very serious startup to start with, but looking at the market and looking at the interest that we found in the commercial sector, especially, we started. Okay, now this makes a business sense, and now the startup is actually, installing its equipment at many businesses. So one place where we installed our instrument, only by providing live data, where somebody can be held accountable, the building was able to save about 25 to 30% of the units they consumed in that particular year. We didn't change any device yet. We didn't retrofitted the building yet. But just by providing information, they were able to save about 25 to 30%. So that's you can say the importance of when the data is available, you can make interventions, you can make decisions that will be beneficial for conservation and efficiency. But of course, we'll answer more. Thank you very much for this question.
Thank you, Dr. Arshad. You are absolutely right. Data is very important. Availability of data is very important to make any informed decision. Asad Saab, I'll come to you. Please tell us about the role of energy efficiency and conservation in the current energy crisis. Asad Saab, over to you. Please unmute yourself. I think there's a problem in his connection. I'll get back to Firoz Beg Saab. Since you are the director industry, my question to you is, in terms of energy efficiency, what technologies or trends do you find most promising for the industrial sector? Beg Saab, over to you.
Well, Ms. Safia, I think about the technologies. Let's start with the power sector. So, as Mr. Naveed Arshad has rightly said, that availability of the data is the real problem. For example, in power sector, we don't have. First, we as a country, we need to focus on the monitoring devices and availability of data timely. For example, the Pakistan Energy Yearbook, which is considered to be the most authentic data of Pakistan energy sector. I have received just a copy of Energy Yearbook 2022 last month in September 2023, and it contains data from July 21 to June 22. How a researcher or an officer sitting in the government organization and uh, proposing energy efficiency and conservation measures and what where we should be can make decisions on 1 year old data. So monitoring devices, then compilation of the data, and making this data available to the right people at the right time is the challenge which we need to focus on. Regarding, we are already very clear where should we go, where the advanced world is going, and what technologies are being used for efficiency and conservation purposes. But the problem is we are still we're not clear where we stand and uh, what is the gap that we have to cover to reach at that point. So first thing that I would focus for the energy sector, for industry sector, or for building sector is to have the appropriate monitoring devices and data in a well compiled form that can be made available for the research. Thank you.
Thank you. You are absolutely right. Data is a problem, but my question would be who's responsible to make this data readily available for all the researchers? What do you think? Is it the responsibility of any energy
Sorry,
department?
can you repeat the question as there is some network problem and your
No,
voice
what
is
I'm
not
saying
clear.
is who is responsible for this data unavailability? What do you think? In
Yes,
your opinion, who is responsible?
I
If
think the regulators are responsible for this because there are no specific standards made and then implemented for monitoring devices and measurement devices, and then data is compiled in not in such a manner that this can be made available timely for the research purposes and for making informed decisions.
right. Zia Saab, my question is K Electric provides a unique case study that caters to the needs of diverse groups and areas. Are there specific investment plans and strategies at the K Electric level?
So, ma'am, I think so. We do have our 2030 investment plan. That plan actually envisages investment close to around 484-85 billion rupees spread over the next 7 years, and very targeted interventions to that. Just to give a kind of an answer to the earlier question, also, we plan investing into the generation fleet by adding close to about more than 1,000 megawatts of clean energy. So that's one of the principles that we have laid down. Two is that we are doing a lot of conservation work and a lot of demand side management as well. Uh, Third, probably more important, is the fact that if you are not able to control the consumption and the kind of society that we have, we really need to find solutions through which we can do some forceful consumption also. So we started with putting up aerial bundle cables. We have started using smart meters in our environment. I have close to about 30,000 transformers stations across the jurisdiction of K Electric, and we do the energy management of all of these 30,000 transformer stations through smart meters. We have also put smart meters onto the high-end consumer customers. That actually provides them with that real-time information that you're actually looking at in terms of how they can more efficiently use. And of course, the fact still remains that since you have got a differentiated tariff in the shape of peak and off peak for higher end consumers. So that to a larger extent does provide them with this understanding and information both. How can they optimize their consumption vis-a-vis their how then optimize their demand vis-a-vis their consumption, and that's the kind of information that should be made available to these customers on a as per need basis, so that they can understand how they can optimize their requirement. That can, of course, do the efficiency part being the conservation and consumption both. So yes, K Electric is doing a lot in terms both in terms of the long-term investment plans. We have a resolve that by 2030 we will have these benchmarks established. I am serving close to about 3.5 million consumers as of now. We will be hopefully, inshallah, crossing 5 million customers by 2030. And so, one of the key mandates, goals, and inshallah, our endeavors is that we will bring in more than or at least to the tune of 30% clean energy. That will, of course, reduce the tariff also, and that will improve a lot in terms of the energy efficiency that you're looking at. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Amir Saab. Asad Saab, please unmute yourself. What role, my question to you is, Asad Saab, what role energy conservation and efficiency measures can play in the backdrop of current energy crisis? जी असद साहब, आपको आवाज आ रही है मेरी?
First of all, apologies for, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Please, well, Gigi, please, I can hear you. Carry on.
Okay. So, well, apologies for the technical glitches. So, I'm going to converge all the 3 points which have been discussed earlier and respond to this ultimately. Whatsoever the legislation, plans, and different interventions different stakeholders are taking. So, at the end of the day, the consumer choice is always on the basis of low-cost electricity and low-cost energy resources. So whenever there is like the price hike, the rate at which like consumer is now paying, at the end of the day, everyone is looking towards the most efficient solutions in the market. Or even if there is no such system available, they are analyzing all the consumer surveys and all the technical reports from the academia and other stuff. And on the word of mouth, they are entering into this regime of adopting or phasing out inefficient appliances and bringing in the new ones. So, because as stated by Mr. Feroz and as all of you know, that the major portion of the electricity goes towards the domestic consumers in Pakistan. So the tariff structures, because like I was just having a conference and discussion with the group of students, where we discussed about the energy consumption of a simple mobile and its contribution in the units on monthly basis. So while I was analyzing or discussing with the things with them, so the thing came out like if you have a price, even in the new tariff structures, if you have consumed 203 units from 200 units, so that 3 unit, which is basically your mobile consumption units which you have consumed in one house, so that is going to so that household is going to suffer from that tariff structure. So there are so many other policies regarding energy efficiency which our regulators have to look into: the real pricing, the real costing, and adding incentives to the to being efficient. And that is quite evident already in the form of automatic power factor controllers, which people install. They get rid of their low power factor penalties. So these are like few soft tools which the regulators also have to look into. As far as the consumer side, be domestic, be industrial consumers, the organic growth of energy efficiency is already coming in, and there are international compliance over industries. They have to comply with those. So they are going for the state-of-the-art, high-notch, efficient appliances in order to fulfill their net zero targets, which they have already committed, especially the export-oriented textile industries and textile specifically for the time being.
Okay, wonderful, Asad Saab. Dr. Naveed Arshad, How do you see the role of technology evolving in energy conservation and efficiency in Pakistan over the next decade?
Okay, so I think the technology, of course, will play a major role, but there is a caution here. Uh, if the technology is being imported like we do mostly, I mean, if we are not spending dollars on fuel, we'll probably be spending dollars on importing technology. But the more important part is that that technology, if not being used right, or if it's not, you can say, if there is a maintenance issue, we'll always have to go back and buy a new device, or maybe just discard it altogether. There is a good industry that we can form on developing energy efficient appliances and devices. Let me give you again an example from our startup. We used to import an instrumentation device from the US. That device used to cost us almost $1,000. Last year, when the LC issue came, we thought that, okay, why don't we try to develop a device locally? And we were able to reduce the cost by more than about 70-80%. That's a major reduction in price of the device. And the you can say the accuracy of the device, and you can say the rest of the components are pretty much the same. It's just that we made an effort, and we were able to make the device. I mean, of course, it was not a very sophisticated device. The sophistication is that it collects the data, and the sophistication is in the software side or data side, which we already had. But because of the LC issue, that forced us to look at alternate, and we said that why not to create our own device, because we have a good electrical engineering department here. We have good people in power electronics, so we can just develop a device that can actually help us. And that device is now, I mean, of course, we are using it in our installations. So I think there is a need for developing energy efficient devices, appliances, but the challenge is that we have to do it locally. I mean, let me give you a very simple. I asked somebody a couple of days ago that do we make any sort of compressor in Pakistan? I mean, the compressor is used in every refrigerator, every fridge that we have in our houses, and many other appliances. So we do not have a compressor making company that makes it here. I mean, there's so much big market. So the challenge is that the trader mindset in our you can say community. I don't know. That's maybe the government's job to push for this local technology development. They somehow have focused on this trader mindset to be more flourishing rather than the industry. But if somehow we are not able to develop the industry, we'll probably not able to solve the energy efficiency problem. We will be saving the dollars in terms of fuel, but spending the dollars in terms of importing the equipment. So the indigenization of the technology is critical, and that's why, of course, it will give us opportunities to export also. More than that, I think there are some other low-hanging fruits we can look at it. One of them is, of course, the software side of things, the data side of things, which of course is something where Pakistan is increasing its you can say its reach. Our exports in the software has actually gone to a point where we can say that area is now growing at a faster pace. We can leverage that expertise in the area of energy, which we have not used much. I mean, I don't see many people who are actually developing software for the energy sector, software for developing energy efficient, you can say, systems. But there is an opportunity, and that's a low-hanging fruit that we can do. So I think indigenization and capturing the low-hanging fruit, I think the two things that I will do if energy efficiency is a priority for us.
Thank you. Asad Saab, when we look towards other countries, we see even in our neighboring countries, they have improved significantly in terms of energy efficiency, then moving increasingly towards renewables. In your opinion, what lessons can we learn from the global experiences and from our neighboring countries? Asad Saab, over to you.
Well, yes, definitely we can learn from neighboring and international best practices. Like regarding the aspect of indigenization. So all those countries which have promoted energy efficient appliances or the rating regimes, so they have created their own local value chain of the appliances. There have been certain impediments and bottlenecks in certain components. like in the fan sector, like there is a quick penetration of inverters fans these days, but the point is they still not have been able to get the local solution of SMPT kits, switch mode power supply kits. Although they have imported from China, the local indigenous reverse engineering has been done, but the cost is not making sense to them. At the end of the day, it's again they are getting cheaper at cheaper rates from our neighboring country, China. So the point is like the local, we need to go into such G2D agreements where technology transfer comes into action. And under the Paris Agreement, there is a Article 9 under the capacity building and Article 10 where the technology transfer, sport, and technology transfer and capacity building interventions have been mentioned. So we need to get hold of those things. Even though there are development partners which are working in Pakistan. For instance, as compressor has been mentioned by Dr. Saab, there is another thing, motor. Motor is a common load in almost all the industries, in most of the appliances, and it's one considered consuming the major portion of the electricity. So even the local motor manufacturers over here, despite copying or getting the blueprints of the most class 1 motors over here, they still have not been able to get their technical hand holding in terms of metallurgy selection to at least get that motor manufactured in Pakistan, which is now phased out in Europe. So we need, in certain segments, we definitely are having state of the art solutions competing with the international world. Like we haven't been in Pakistan, the fan manufacturers have not yet let the Chinese fans to penetrate into the market. But yes, the DC fan is something where they face some challenges, but EDB and other players play their part. So similarly, in this context of EV, which I considered as now a domestic household item, which is definitely in most of the countries it's considered as a domestic household item. The two-wheelers, if you look at that, so it provides you the battery backup and so many other configurations which Dr. Naveed and team are already working on it. So if we spread out into different sectors in different technologies, keeping in view the international obligations which developed countries are bound to facilitate Pakistan in, we should go and ask the technical facilitation in those things rather than donors coming in and giving and looking into just cherry picking. And at the end of the day, we are sitting nowhere in terms of local indigenous technology development. So the key to self-reliance and is basically the indigenization and complying with the international standards, because we don't need not to cater the local industry. We need to open markets, or we need to export those appliances as well. And that is only possible if we comply the local international standards and those adopted to the local level and national levels.
Right. Wakes up. Okay. He's disconnected. Let me turn to Dr. Arshad again. Dr. Saab, please tell us how can businesses improve their energy efficiency without sacrificing productivity? Is it possible for the businesses to improve their energy efficiency?
Yes, the basic idea of having energy efficiency and conservation is to go through it in stages. So, for example, there is a stage which we can do with zero investment, or low investment, and medium investment, and of course time-wise also it goes the same way. There are, as I said, very low-hanging fruits. I'll give you a small example. So a few years ago at our university, we did a small project trying to find out that what is the load of lighting in our labs. And this was a time when we had these compact CFL bulbs, and we didn't have the LED at that time in great variety. So LED was not available in the market in those days. We were able to figure out that replacement of CFL to LED exercise will cost the university some amount of money. And when we calculated it, the payback period was 9 months. When we actually installed, after the university gave the permission to actually change the light bulbs, the payback period actually came out to be 7 months. because we didn't figure out that all these computer labs also had the computers which were emitting, of course, the light bulbs were emitting the heat, and there was more air conditioning required to just maintain the temperature. So not only that the light bulbs were consuming more energy, they were also forcing us to use more air conditioning. So similarly, if we look at other factors, for example, if we do water conservation, that's directly will impact energy conservation. There are many other things which, if you start doing conserving, ultimately the impact will be on the energy side. So businesses, first of all, of course, data is, said to be a you can say a bottleneck. We also faced this bottleneck a few years ago. But we said that, okay, why not we collect our own data? And that actually then led us to develop the largest collection of the data in Pakistan from about 55 buildings, where we collected a year-long data and published it on the web. That's one of the most cited data set from this part of the world. Currently, we are doing another data collection exercise, and that is to extend the data collection to 9 cities in Pakistan. And not only to collect the data from the energy from buildings, but also to collect the weather data, like what was the temperature and other factors, so that whenever somebody is using, they have the complete data set available to them. That's again a year-long exercise. We'll be doing it and publishing this data again. But here is the challenge that we found out. When we go to the funding agencies, they are very happy to fund many projects related to R&D and other purchasing, procurements and stuff. But as soon as we say that we want to collect data, and not just data which is from surveys, but these are high granularity data, they said that we do not fund this kind of data collection. For both of these, we had a hard time convincing our funders that this data collection will be useful. The pre-con data that we collected from Pakistan is downloaded now 1,000 times. It's used 1,000 times by, universities as MIT and other institutions like the large companies. So that actually has a value. So the data collection itself can be a commodity if we want to use it the right way. But the problem is, as universities, as you can say academic institution, we do not have funds to actually collect data and make it available. That's one part. For the businesses thing, one thing that I found out, we tried to work with many industries, and we found the following challenge with them. By looking at their data, we can kind of find out what they are doing in their industry. Sometimes not everything is black and white. So that's why many industries just shy away from letting us collect their data, or somehow getting a visibility into their data. And then they said, okay, yeah, just kaam chal raha hai, waise chalne de, we are fine with the bills, we'll find another way to pay. Very few industries actually go on and you can say invite companies for energy conservation efficiency. They probably can do it in-house job, but that may not be the best one. But I think we need to have this trust issue or trust gap that कि जी अगर पता लग गया तो FBI record tax लगा देगी हम पे. That kind of I think issues remain. And then when it's something that I said early on, that the payback period of whenever you are investing in energy efficient technology at a large scale is still to be determined. The gap financing somehow needs to be arranged. In case of solar, it is clear, but in case of energy efficiency projects, it's very difficult. I have one example, if you let me know. I recently visited a very interesting place where I saw a brilliant project, but somehow we're not able to use the full potential of it. So earlier this week, I visited Chuck 563 EB in district Pehari, deep rural area in Punjab. And there I saw an idea which actually was brilliant, and somehow we should be learning from that idea. The idea was that they said that there's a village which has about 300 households, and we need to provide electricity to them. Somehow we should be creating a small grid which is connected to the main grid, but the local grid should be providing most of the electricity. It has benefits for both utility company as well as the community. So they had the plan to have a 330 kilowatt solar panel. So they installed that. And then they had installed a biogas system that was able to provide gas in sufficient quantity so that they can run generators at night, so the electricity can be provided to that village, the 300 households. That project was conceived with MAPCO, which is the utility area, a company of that area. However, at the time when the project was about to begin, the regulator came and said that you cannot do it. And this was about 3 years ago when we didn't have any microgrid policy or mini grid policy in Pakistan. They said that you cannot do it. You can just use this electricity in your own limited area, that's 2.5 acres, and you cannot supply it outside. Although the project was developed as with MAPCO, it was developed with community. So a great project, I mean, they had to shelve that part of the project. But here's something that they did, which was quite a good use of resources, if you ask me. They said that, okay, we'll have this biogas, and we'll put up a pipeline across this village and supply the biogas to all the village. So that's they put a pipeline of 2.5 kilometers, and they connected about 183 households that are now getting gas 3 times a day, like the gas that we are getting in winters, at 1,000 rupees every month. But there is another benefit that nobody looked at it, and that is the kind of fertilizer that this biogas plant is bringing. For a 500 rupees bottle of fertilizer, they are replacing a 44,000 DAP, two bags of DAPs, by just 500 rupees of fertilizer, and it's providing the same kind of nourishments to their plants. So this project is kind of a, you can say, a circular economy project that brought different kinds of energy efficiency and conservation inside their own community, but somehow they were not able to complete it because of the regulations, or you can say the blockades that the regulators put, or in other words, the public sector put in. So I think we need to actually look at these projects and see that why they didn't see that, why innovation that is happening in Pakistan is blocked at every level. And since I am in part of a few, you can say, startups, every innovation that has to go to the regulator or to the government, there are always blockades. And the blockades are not that, okay, I just change the blockade, I remove the blockade. The blockade is such that there has to be a legislation happening at the national level before that you cannot do anything. So I think we are killing the innovation in our country, in our people, and that's why we see an outflow of, brilliant minds, because they're not seeing that their minds are used. We just want the run-of-the-mill things that to happen. China se cheez le lo aur laga lo, aur wohi jo purana system hai, usi to leke chale jaye. We may survive a few more years with it, but we have to do something different if you want to actually bring many other, you can say, innovations, whether it's energy and efficiency and conservation or the whole power sector. So I'm sorry I was a bit, you can say, blunt about saying it, but as an academic, I think, we don't have a problem saying blunt things. Thank you.
No, you are absolutely right. There is a problem of regulatory sludge. I come to Zia sir, please, if you like to add something to it, because you are representing a utility, you must be facing such kind of hindrances whenever you go to a regulator. So what role do you think a regulator has to play in ensuring the effective implementation of energy conservation strategies, as Dr. Naveed Arshad has rightly mentioned about the problems, how they are creating hindrances, and so and so on. So over to you, Zia sir. Please, your thoughts on this.
So I will actually, मैं नवीद साहब का जो statement है उसको थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा elaborate करूँगा. I think the problem in terms of affordability and efficiency, they actually go hand in hand. I will actually broaden this scope of this discussion on both ends, that being the supply side and as well as on the consumption side. How efficiently are we utilizing the available resources? And I'm specifically referring to the availability of my depleting gas resources for using it for electricity purpose, or am I using it optimally for other purposes, which is other than generating electricity? Same goes to the extent of understanding the utility of my consumption on the demand side, whether I am efficient enough of utilizing the fuel through which that electricity or that heat is being generated for consumption purposes, whether it's through electricity or it's through gas. Strangely enough, अगर आप इनकी parity देखने की कोशिश करेंगे, So I am, as an electricity generating entity, my most efficient plants can generate an efficiency of close to about 60%, even more than that. That translates into the electricity being sent for utilization purpose. Vis-a-vis, if you look at the generation side and as well as the distribution side, consumption side of the gas, so my efficient plants, on the consumption side, my efficient utility in terms of the gas consumption is something between 15 to 20%. सो मैं जो 20% से 60% का सफर है वो आज तक मैं तय नहीं कर सका कि जी कि मैंने ऑप्टिमम यूटिलाइजेशन उस फ्यूल की कैसे करनी है जो कि मुझे बेहतरीन उसका हासिल दे सके आगे. And strangely enough, this is one debate that's been going on for the last so many years, but we have not come to a conclusion on this account. I think the policy side needs to really look into this. Okay, how can I efficiently bring in the cleanest form of energy, bringing it to a more affordable level and making it more available vis-a-vis the general classes, having multiple energy sources. I mean, it's a very strange phenomena that we are probably amongst the lowest in terms of per capita electricity consumption, but probably we are amongst the highest in terms of per capita energy consumption globally. It's a very strange kind of a thing that I am not electricity high electricity consuming country, but I am very high in terms of energy consumption. इसलिए कि मैं primary energy भी दे रहा हूँ, मैं secondary energy भी दे रहा हूँ, मैं tertiary energy भी दे रहा हूँ. Tertiary energy, of course, being the electricity, secondary being gas and other forms of energy, and primary being आपने लकड़ी भी जला लिया, आपने कोयला भी जला लिया और आपने और forms of energy भी दे. इस पूरी environment का जब infrastructure में लेके चलता हूँ, so look at the efficiencies that you are actually losing on these accounts. So yes, I do agree with Dr. Saab कि probably all the regulators really need to sit together, all the policy makers really need to sit together in terms of understanding how can I optimize the already depleting resources in terms of my fuel bases, and then looking at what is the best possible solution that can actually work in terms of the efficiency improvement and availability, and of course the cleanest form also. So yes, there is a dire need of having this larger dialogue to be established.
So basically, there is a lack of integrated planning, which is creating all these problems. And not only a lack of integrated planning, actually, there's a lack of coordination among different departments as well, which is creating hurdles. So, Beg Sahab, I'll come to you. आप बताइए कि in the implementation of this NICA policies, is NICA facing some kind of problems in terms of coordination with the provincial departments, or at a lower level? Because what we see in other countries is, for the successful implementation of any energy conservation policy, we must have an effective coordination at the lower level. वहाँ से जो है then we can implement such kind of policies. वहाँ से जब उसके लिए push आएगा, वहाँ से coordination होगी. So over to you, Beg Sahab ji.
Yes, this is quite. There is a quite challenge of implementation on the side of provinces, because इसमें अगर जिस तरह हम देखें जो 5 सेक्टर इकोनॉमी की मैंने निका के मैंडेट के अंदर बताए हैं, इनमें
I'm sorry. जी.
मैंडेट
आपकी आवाज कट रही है. I'll come to you, Asad Saab. The same question to you. What do you say about the coordination at various levels?
Well, as far as the legislation is concerned, it clearly stipulates the role of the federal institution and the provincial designated agencies, what they have to do. Even though, since the policy is there, but there are so many other things which would have it or it could be implemented even without the promulgation of rules and regulations as specified in the Act itself. So it already gives a legal backing to do so many things. So NECA apart is a sort of the beauty in the regulation was like it is also advising in certain sectors the provinces like national standardization or through PSQC and other bodies. But on the other side, most of the things are provincial led, which have been demonstrated in Punjab and in Sindh as well, which will be there. So it could be one institution, it could be more than one institution. It's all about the interpretation of the act as well itself. And in the federal jurisdiction, somebody has to implement something. So it's the domain of NECA to at least start implementing the things at the federal level within the federal jurisdiction territory to set a role model for other provinces, and also give them the hand holding which they require, and act as a regulator because because for that, as Dr. Naveed Saab has mentioned, that definitely if we miss some segments, if we start acting as a regulator, just like I used to when I used to be there, we started complying. We started off with captive power plants, benchmarks, energy auditing. So all the things ended up in courts. So what is the way out which the Act gives? It's the energy conservation tribunals should be there, so that no such technical issue should be taken to like normal high courts. It should be settled with the technical courts or technical institution which should be there. So putting the things in place and giving and let the provinces also prioritize their interventions as per their load profiles, even on city level or district level. Every specific area has their own set of issues and load profiles. So we need to have come up with certain again, as Amir Ziasab has mentioned, they're serving like larger number of consumers, domestic consumers, or even the large industrial consumers. So we'll see. We would like to see how the peak sharing or the peak load hours could be moved up and down, keeping in view the loads of different circles, different sectors, or different grid stations. So certain things, because they already have their automated data and information system available. So I think they could become a pioneer in that as well. And regardless of that, when we talk about Sindh, there are certain distribution companies which will come under the Sindh HESCO and other distribution company, which SEPCO. But K Electric can set a benchmark for them. And coming to the benchmark, I was referring to Dr. Naveed Arshad's point that data is the issue. And because we need to have process benchmarks, we need to have energy efficiency standard benchmarks, set it to the localized context, and then giving the minimum threshold levels and taking the things in a stepwise manner gradually, because ultimately once you increase efficiency, the price also sometimes add up to it. So this title of the session is also like just wanted to also touch upon that, like the future of energy. For me, being an energy efficiency practitioner, like it always, like the first fuel is always the energy efficiency, the neatest form of fuel that is not energy, that is not used. So the more the practices or like the passive design or other things practices are inculcated through academia, through institutions, be it be through regulatory measure, be it be through mandatory compliance or organic growth. So we need to look into how the things work. So to me, being on the other as having served at the public sector side or regulatory aspect, so I think that carrot approaches may serve the purpose for energy efficiency in a much better way. Sugar-coated solutions or financing solutions through banks and others, because I wish, just like how the solar has been financed some other appliances, we could have been in a sort of better situation in terms of demand curtailment through energy efficiency or rationalizing working.
Okay. We talked about technology. We talked about government role and role of the various provincial authorities as well. Now, my question is, without creating awareness among the masses. How is it possible for the successful implementation of this strategy or policy? For so many years, so many years we are hearing about we are through कि हम जी awareness create करने की कोशिश की जाएंगे, but still we are far behind. When we look at the case of Japan, in Japan they created awareness not in years but in weeks. So why we are so slow in creating awareness among masses? And my second question, any one of you can answer, is how can individuals make informed decisions about purchasing energy efficient appliances? उनमें अवेयरनेस होने की जरूरत है, उनको कैसे पता चलेगा कि they should move towards these appliances? So any of you can answer these questions.
Well, let me just be very swift in my response. Number one, in international best practice, there is always a national product registration system and portal where each consumer can get access to the information which product is efficient and not. So, but it needs a very good working relationship between certain institutions, just like in Pakistan, we have federal and provincial designated agencies, and then you have like PSQCA, which is basically looking into overall standardization of things. And energy is one of the subset of the full product standard technical specifications. So keeping in, there are two things, like even though star rating label is not coming, there are two other terminologies that are internationally used: minimum energy performance standards and high energy performance standards. So minimum could be made mandatory, and the high is something could be kept voluntary. Those who can see, that's like in fan, when we started it in 2000, I was given like when I was part of this platform. So exercise that thing that we asked the fan manufacturers to start registering their products and get their fans tested and attain certain air delivery benchmark with less power consumption. So brands and small SMEs, they also came up, and to me, technically, I don't go towards the brand. It's the after-sale services, guarantee, and other things. And definitely the service value, air service value is something we should need to focus at as well. So what happened in that is like the price thing came into this thing that the price is going to get escalated. But we see the every small manufacturer or large manufacturer competing to go towards a high energy benchmark rather than going towards the minimum threshold level, which could have reduced the manufacturer's cost. But in real sense, all the 20 manufacturers which have so far registered their fan products voluntary, they got their fan products tested and they all achieved the high star rating, which means that there is now market is fully saturated with the efficient products. Now there is a time to revise it, or to focus on other technologies like AC/DC inverter technologies and bring them in the fan inverter technologies and bring them in the ambit, because there are 3 or 4 million fans, ceiling fans, that as per PEFMA that are penetrated. They got the figure of 8 million fans, and out of that 50%, more than 50% are the ceiling fans. And now all they have by default organically diverted most of their models towards DC AC inverter fans, which consume not more than 45 or 50 watts, keeping the airflow constant, which is required as per the IC standards. So this is one thing where you have to see whether efficiency brings premium prices into the market. In Pakistan, in fan case, I see like the market accepting the higher standards, and they competed, and with the passage of time, local internal capacity building initiatives by PCSAR, Ministry of Science and Technology, they were able to improve ratings and product standards. So this was something related to. So so even if there is no legislation regulation, we should have by now uploaded or operated that product registration system, which could have helped the consumers on their choice to go for the efficient ones on the basis of the technical. But not all the products could be part of the bottleneck impediment, or there are not enough laboratories for all the domestic household appliances to be tested as per the ISO 70 accredited laboratory and other parameters in order to make the export-oriented product in Pakistan. So we have fan, we have refrigerator now, we have air conditioning, we have LED lights, laboratory. So that are being operated by PSQCA, PCSAR, and other certain. And PANAC is working for the accreditation of. So for again G2G agreements, China has all the laboratories, and other countries also have the laboratories. So if we don't have that capability of having, or it doesn't make business sense because nobody is pushing the things on mandatory basis. So even for the export to Gulf countries or European countries, the manufacturers have to send their products to China for the EU CE certification and the UL certification and other markings. So this is something this is an area where academia can come in, policymakers can bring their investment. And from this platform, I urge like Nutshell and other GAI platform and others that SIFC should look into this public-private venture to bring in the laboratories in Pakistan to get the products tested because these are standardized across the world. You need not to. This is not a rocket science. This is what we have been asking the development partners or the organizations which are facilitating in this efficiency regime to give us the feasibility reports of the accredited laboratories. But we are being taught not to catch the fish, but to eat the fish. I stop with this bottom line over here.
Can I just add on to that?
Gigi, please go ahead.
We need to understand one thing, and that's standardization is must. But at the same time, for a common person, I mean, who has an average income of say about 20,000 rupees, 25,000, 30,000 rupees, he's not bothered in terms of the efficiency of that device. It's the thing which has to be linked with standardization is the affordability. If I cannot make them affordable, वो पंखा जो है वो दिन के 100 यूनिट इस्तेमाल करता है या 1000 यूनिट इस्तेमाल करता है या 500 यूनिट इस्तेमाल करता है या 2 यूनिट इस्तेमाल करता है, वो जब महीने का एंड आएगा तब वो सोचेगा उस वक्त बैठ के. We need to find solutions के जहाँ पे कि मैंने प्राइस कंट्रोल को भी बहुत अच्छे तरीके से मैनेज करना है. Standardization definitely is a must and there can't be two ways about that. But with standardization, I need to be very, very aware, very, very wary of the fact that the cost has to be somehow managed in a manner that it remains affordable. We lose on account of the cost. So we can still go with standardization, and that, I mean, there's no two ways about that. But at the same time, at the end of the day, a person who's earning 20,000 rupees, he's not going to buy a fan for, again, the amount of salary that he's earning for a month, paying for the cost of a fan. So he'll definitely go for, and linked with that is that a very secondary market hai, which is the repair market. There's no standardization over there. So I can still have standardization done in the primary market, but secondary market, जो कि जब उसकी after sale service होती है या उसकी repair work में आता है, there's hardly any standardization. So हमें एक पूरी environmental, I would say, there has to be a cultural change in terms of understanding. How will I go about that? But linked with that, principles are still the same कि मुझे standardization करनी पड़ेगी, efficiency improve तभी हो सकती है जब तक इस चीज को हम इसकी sector sense को ensure नहीं करेंगे.
बिल्कुल सही. And not only cost, availability in remote areas या जो small cities हैं वहाँ पे उसकी availability is also a must. कि अगर हम सिर्फ बात कर रहे हैं for the large cities तो वो तो हो जाएगा, but majority of our population is living in small cities, तो वहाँ पे उसकी availability is also necessary. Dr. Naveed Arshad, would you like to add something to it?
जी, couple of points. पहली बात तो ये कि the standardization course is something that we should be doing, but even before standardization, we should be knowing that what is the characteristic of our product. I mean, motors, Asad talked about it. We do not have a motor characterization facility in Pakistan. I mean, we do not know what's the efficiency of our motors as we speak. To the best of my knowledge, we are creating one motor characterization facility as part of the electric vehicle R&D lab at LUMS, but that can serve any kind of motor. But that's just an effort. That's a private effort. Of course, we need to have more public support there. Another thing I think which we need to understand is that our public has been scammed many times. Even if you go today to YouTube, you'll find tens of videos of motorbikes being claimed as electric, highly efficient bikes that with one charge can give you 200 kilometers and the price will be less than CD70 and whatever. So these are kind of scams that people have been into, and the people who have been bitten by these scams, their word of mouth is actually becomes a negative word. People don't go to that product even to hold of that technology. So I think it's important that good quality products and those things should be promoted. And the best, you can say, the people who can promote these products are the people who we go to for buying these products. So, for example, the dealer network. Whenever I go to a shop, I have no idea which air conditioner or which fan I have to buy. My first reference is the person who is dealing me. I said, "कौन सा आजकल अच्छा चल रहा है?" Although I don't have a parameter, I mean, since I am working in this area, I may have some parameter, but bulk of the people don't. So I think that dealer network or the people who are actually interacting with the consumers should be trained first. Hopefully, some of them will tell the consumer that, okay, this one is 50 watt, it costs more. This is DC fan. The other one is AC that costs less, but it takes 100 watt. So take your choice. So many people will, of course, go for, if they have the affordability, they can go for a better product where they can save some money later on. So I think it's awareness is something where it's a multi-pronged approach. It's that we have to provide authenticated products through a standardized way, through a government lab that has ensured that they meet some form of standardization. There is an effort going on with Nika and Pika about standardization of the fans. I think that's a great effort. It should be extended to other electrical appliances as well. But I think that's a multi-pronged approach. It's or ultimately, जो लोग experience करेंगे वो लोग खरीदेंगे. If the product is good, you don't need to advertise that product. People will automatically will flock to it once the word of mouth is in the positive way reflect that product. So I think awareness is critical. But again, people are bitten so many times with the scams that they are, unless जब वो चीज को चलता हुआ नहीं देख लेंगे और किसी का एक्सपीरियंस नहीं सुनेंगे अपने बंदों का जिसको ट्रस्ट करते हैं, it's very difficult for them to embrace that product.
जी बिल्कुल ठीक. अच्छा डॉक्टर साहब, my next question is your advice to the policy makers and stakeholders for meaningful progress in energy conservation.
So I think the important thing is that there are some things that the private sector cannot do. So setting up of the testing laboratories is an expensive thing. One cannot do it. Bringing in financing mechanism is something that the government can do. The private sector cannot do it. Another very important aspect that we forget in all this is that the world is going through an energy transition. Now, our claim always has been that we are not part of the climate change problem, so why bother about it? It's not that we are not, we should not be bothered about it. I mean, it's correct that we have not actually been part of creating that problem. But when there is a wave going on, you should ride the wave and take the maximum benefit of it, rather than saying that, okay, I don't care about it. So this time, there are almost trillions of dollars that were being pumped into the energy transition phase. Whether it's clean energy, whether it's better ways of energy mitigation, the emission mitigation or adaptation, or even energy efficiency. We are not able to unlock the international funding, which is for the government, mostly in grants form, in our quest towards better energy sector. I'll give you an example. The Green Climate Fund, which was formed in 2013, it's a $100 billion fund to help the countries that are vulnerable to climate change in terms of mitigation and adaptation. The Pakistani, you can say, entities are able to only get about $10 million. Total, we got about $150, $160 million, but that are because our application were routed by WWF or ADB and other organizations. The local entities were only able to get about $10 million. Private sector can get finance, public sector can get finance, but that window we are not even looking at. Public sector does not have the capacity, private sector does not have the visibility into those windows. And unfortunately, all of these windows are G2G windows, but they are extremely useful if we want to bridge our financing gap. I think it's a high time that we go to these windows and ride the energy transition rather than resist it or just say that we don't care about it. After a few years, it will be gone. So use it as much as we can. And we can use the energy efficiency mechanism as a way to get the carbon credits that we can sell to the outside world. I mean, for money. I mean, that's something that we can do. So it's a quite a multi-pronged approach. One thing more I would like to just add. After working in 15 years in this area, I think one thing that is clear, very, you can say, clear to me as daylight, is that the sector is working in as small silos as possible. The distribution companies have no idea what is happening at the generation side. The transmission company has no idea what is happening at the efficiency side. The provinces have no idea what the federal is doing and or what the districts are doing. So there are 20, 30, 100 entities that are not talking to each other, or they're saying that, okay, we just want to fix our problem, but the greater problem we don't worry about it. I'll just give you one example. The biggest problem with the utility companies right now is how to reduce their daytime load or the load when the air conditioning is high, because that is the load where most of expensive plants are running. That's what we call peak shaving, and there are many DSM programs. Ultimately, energy efficiency also, conservation also is directed towards that. I was talking to a distribution company, and the distribution company plainly said to me, the representative, that our goal is to sell as much electricity as possible. We don't care about energy efficiency and conservation of the client. I mean, that's his problem. Now, I know that in the US, the distribution companies are spending up to 5% of their revenue just to bring energy efficiency, conservation, DSM kind of programs, just to reduce their peak load to a minimum as much as possible. Now, most distribution companies have no idea that we are into a capacity trap. We have 253 terawatt coming this year. We can only be able to spend, use about 130 terawatt hour. Bulk of our problem is that our peak load is so much that we have been able to install a system that is only running few hours a day. Now, of course, we need to sell more energy, but we need to sell more energy intelligently rather than just selling unintelligently and improve our peak load. So I think it has to be and I think it started from the unbundling of WADA. Unfortunately, the unbundling has created more problems than it solved. And unless we, fix a silo-based effect where regulator and other entities sit together and find a comprehensive solution, it's very difficult that we are able to do major impact in the future of energy of this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saab. Here, I would like Amir Zia Saab to please intervene because K Electric is a vertically integrated company. So, your thoughts on this?
मैं डॉक्टर साहब की तायद ही कर सकता हूँ. वो हमारा एक डिलेमा है पावर सेक्टर का कि जनरेशन जो उनकी होती है वो मेगावाट्स में होती है और डिमांड हमारी किलोवाट आवर्स में होती है. तो ये जो मेगावाट और किलोवाट आवर्स की जंग है ये बड़े अरसे से चल रही है. बट ही इज राइट कि but then again, I'll be specific. I can't say much in terms of the other distribution companies, but as part of K Electric, I think we do a lot of awareness programs. We have a specific department that actually reaches out to these industrial bases. In fact, about 2 years back, we did a survey of the top 40 industries across different segments of industries, trying to educate them, trying to let them know in terms of the efficiency improvements that they can actually bring in. I being integrated, so I do get a benefit on this account because I have my own generation. And like Dr. Naveed said, if I can save my most expensive generation from serving in the peak hours, so then I am actually benefiting from that. So we do that. Again, linked with that is host of other programs. We went out at a very grassroots level under the banner of हमने कोई 100 रोशनी बाजीज जो सी थी इनकलकेट की थी, एंड दैट वाज स्प्रेड ऑल अक्रॉस द वैल्यू चेन. मकसद उनका ये था कि एक आम कंज्यूमर जिसको इतनी अवेयरनेस नहीं है और जिसके पास प्रॉब्ली इतनी नॉलेज भी नहीं है, उसको उसके घर में बैठ के ये बताया जाए कि जी आपने इस्त्री किस वक्त इस्तेमाल करनी है और आपने वॉशिंग मशीन किस वक्त इस्तेमाल करनी है और पानी की मोटर किस वक्त. दिस मे साउंड वेरी वेरी रुडिमेंट्री बेसिक, बट ट्रस्ट मी, वंस वी गो ऑन ए ग्लोबल बेसिस इसका इम्पैक्ट आता है. Optimum utilization of your demand that gets created on the system is actually what is the saving that you do on the generation side. If I can spread out that demand, you will be saving a lot in terms of your peaking plants that are perhaps the most expensive and most inefficient also. So within K Electric, yes, we do a lot of efforts in terms of how we can educate the people, how can we support the masses at large in terms of bringing in efficiency, both at the industrial side as well as on the other elements of the society. Thank you, Ji.
Asad sir, we are moving close to the end. I would like you to answer how can we ensure that the energy conservation steps translate into more tangible results? Asad sir, please unmute yourself.
जी वेल जब हम इसे सेक्टोरली स्प्लिट करते हैं तो टेंजिबल रिजल्ट्स जो हैं डोमेस्टिक सेक्टर में आपको अप्लाइंसेस की शक्ल में दिखेंगे कि पहले अवेलेबिलिटी चीज़ों की होगी तो फिर आप चीज़ों को कंज्यूम करेंगे बट एनर्जी एफिशिएंट अप्लाइंसेस टेंजिबल इन द टेंजिबल फॉर्म डजंट मीन दैट दे आर गोइंग टू सेव एनर्जी until unless you manage them properly as well. So it's all about energy management at the end of the day. Even with the most inefficient appliances, अगर लोगों ने अपने बिल को कम करना है, जिस तरह रियाज साहब ने, आमिर साहब ने कहा कि पैसा चलाता है सारी चीज़ें, मनी मेक्स द मेयर गो. सो इन दैट कंटेक्स्ट जो है वो आपने अगर सिर्फ सेंसिटाइज कर दिया लोगों को कि आपके मतलब टैरिफ स्ट्रक्चर्स, खासतौर पर सिंगल फेस कंज्यूमर्स आर वेरी मच वरीड. काश के मेगावाट और किलोवाट आवर्स की बजाय केवीए के अंदर बिल आ रहे होते तो माइट भी कुछ और सिनेरियो होता. तो एक और टेक्निकली बट वो लोगों के ऊपर से बात निकल जाती इन टर्म्स ऑफ केवीए. So cutting the long story short, tangible is something के मतलब efficiency is the way forward. और इसके ऊपर हम वो एक है ना जी, in the realm of power for the years ahead, conservation's the path where we must tread. Efficiency and care is all we do. Sustainable choices, the word anew. So so these like reports or different schemes, awareness schemes, जिस तरह के इलेक्ट्रिक ने पिछले दिनों एक वॉट के हवाले से क्लिप चलाया था तो वो बड़ा मैसिवली सर्कुलेट हुआ. नीका की भी काफ़ी और प्रोविंस की, पंजाब की और बाकी जगहों की लोकलाइज ज़बानों में जब तक आप पैगाम नहीं देंगे जो कि आसानी से लोग समझ सकें, तब तक जो है ना बिहेवियर चेंज या विद इन द कम्युनिटी टारगेटेड आप कम्युनिटीज़ में जब तक कंपेन्स नहीं चलाएंगे तो इम्पैक्ट नहीं आएगा. बट यहाँ पर मैं सजेस्ट करना चाहूँगा आमिर साहब को भी कि वो अपने रूल्स ऑफ जो लाइक अपनी डायमेंशंस, बिजनेस की डायमेंशंस को थोड़ा सा और चेंज करने की तरफ अगर फोकस करें, जिस तरीके से डॉक्टर नवीद साहब भी कहते रहते हैं कि आई हर्ड डिफरेंट प्लेटफॉर्म्स और सम अदर स्पीकर्स एज वेल कि डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कंपनीज कैन आल्सो स्टार्ट प्रोवाइडिंग द व्हीकल चार्जिंग सर्विस स्टेशंस एंड थिंग्स लाइक दैट. सिमिलरली ये जो एफिशिएंट अप्लाइंसेस जो हैं इनके लिए टेस्टेड लेबॉर्ट्रीज, टेस्टिंग अप्लाइंसेस करके इवन इफ अगर फेडरल bodies या provincial bodies नहीं कर पा रही तो distribution companies can take leapfrogging, shortlisting their appliances after testing them और अपनी enlistment करके of certain appliances they can start off with certain campaigns on bill financing के through. So just to see the results and impacts of the things as a role model in certain, खासतौर पर net metering से आप जो है नेट मीटरिंग कंज्यूमर जितने भी हैं कंज्यूमर्स उसको आप मैंडेटरी करते हैं सर्टन अप्लाइंसेस के लिए, या आपके सिंगल फेज कंज्यूमर्स हैं उनको आप स्पेशल इंसेंटिव दें क्योंकि हमेशा जो वेल ऑफ हैं वो एडवांटेज उठा जाते हैं स्कीम्स का, लेकिन जो एनर्जी पॉवर्टी का शिकार लोग हैं वो रह जाते हैं. तो हमें बेसिकली अपने आस पड़ोस में आप सबसे पहले ये देखना चाहिए कि कौन लोग अब एनर्जी का बिल अफोर्ड बिल्कुल ही नहीं कर पा रहे. तो वी नीड टू स्टार्ट फ्रॉम दोस थिंग्स to see the tangible impact of
स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन तो हम कर रहे हैं जी supply side in terms of the standardization of equipment, because no utility can actually survive without doing standardization of its own equipment. The big question actually is that I have become in a way more efficient by actually standardizing my equipment more so that I am able to optimize my जो efficiency है, whether it's on the generation side or the transmission side or the distribution side. A bit of a dilemma that we have within the power sector of Pakistan and of course on the distribution end of the business is that I am restricted to the metering device. So the environment which is beyond the metering device is not within my ambit of jurisdiction. So I'm kind of handicapped at that point in time. उसके ऊपर we can do CSR, we can do awareness programs, we can do a lot of which we do on a regular basis. but I honestly think there has to be some better legislation done, better understanding done in terms of how can you improve the. हमने एक और काम किया था रिसेंटली कि हमारे जितनी कंसल्टेंट्स हैं उनके साथ हमने काफ़ी अवेयरनेस प्रोग्राम्स किए थे in terms of the devices that they have to put whenever they are constructing a building or something like that. So yes, we do that, but then again, probably there is more need in terms of expanding this side of the environment.
जी शुक्रिया डॉक्टर नवीद अरशद your last words.
Gee, I think there are lots of challenges, but there are lots of opportunities. I think जो decade है, this is the disruption in the energy sector. Utilities जिस तरह से हम देखते हैं उसका मॉडल चेंज हो रहा है. बिजली जिस तरह इस्तेमाल करते हैं उसके मॉडल्स चेंज हो रहे हैं. I think we need to I think be part of that rather than we still looking at the old ways. One thing that I would like to I forgot to mention is that our tariffs have been still, I mean they are from the 60s. They are much better tariff techniques that we can employ. I mean, real-time tariffs based on the generation or what the demand is. The real-time tariff something that's possible, and an industrial consumer will like that. They will like, that kind of flexibility. But somehow the regulator again is creating. I mean, even a private utility company as KE cannot go towards a modern day tariff. I mean, they still are stuck with the same tariff that's gone for peak off peak के ऊपर ही भी हम फंसे हुए हैं. So I think the tariff redesigning is, I think, the major thing. Just through you can give signal, you can link your efficiency, conservation, demand side management in particular. But of course, it will send the message to the businesses that they should do more to get more benefits. So I think, but there are many opportunities that I see. I think we should be looking at those opportunities rather than we should be bogged down. We should not be bogged down with the challenges. There are opportunities that we should be seeking to leverage upon rather than running away from them.
जी बिल्कुल absolutely you are right. We must go towards an innovative tariff design के जिसमें हमारे पास different options हो consumer के पास instead of having only peak and non-peak demand, and so we definitely need a revision in our tariff design. So overall, just to conclude, policy advocacy is crucial in bridging the knowledge gap in energy conservation and amplifying the voices of underrepresented groups that are overshadowed by stakeholders who prioritized increasing installed capacity for financial gains. Serious efforts have to be made towards reducing technical and non-technical losses in electricity through investment in outdated infrastructure and monitoring. And the reforms should include an upgrade of the power system, load dispatch and control, and management at the national and regional level. And this subsidized electricity and enormous cross subsidy across consumer categories are one of the reason for the inefficient use of electricity. So it must end. A new tariff strategy must be designed to stop this misuse. And as mentioned by Dr. Naveed Arshad, the prepaid smart meters are increasingly being used to save energy globally. So Pakistan must move towards prepaid smart meters on a large scale. And the successful implementation of policy initiatives in Pakistan, it requires effective coordination at all levels, including the local level. This is how several countries have achieved improvement in energy intensity. And overall, it is necessary to have an organized strategy to decouple energy from growth. Technological advancements and institutional improvements can boost energy efficiency, enhance competitiveness in international markets, and promote economic growth. Thank you so much for the participation and to the panel. Wonderful discussion. I've learned a lot from all of you. So thank you so much. And this is all from our side. Allah Hafiz.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allah Hafiz.
Thank you, Allah.